I've got some good news for you. You're not stuck where you are. There is something you can do about it. I know it because of an example in Azimio Minor. Is Azimio here? Azimio, your life testimony. That man was almost twice his weight. And I think we should be circulating his pictures after this. If you saw the Azimio before and Azimio after, you're going to believe anyone can do it. Yes, let's appreciate him. What I gather from Azimio, who is a health expert, it was not easy. It was a deliberate work. But the good news is, you can do it. But it was a deliberate work. It took a couple of sacrifices, but more importantly, the mental condition. He had already decided the weight he wants to see, and he began to figure it out. Next month, I'll be teaching about the power of an idea. I'll pick that thought right from there. And we are going to get into serious details about how your mind leads to your wallet, to your health, and to everything else. For now, what I've got to say is this. If you invest on your inside, it will be reflected on your outside. Does that make sense? Yes. And this takes me to my fourth point tonight. Our fourth item of discussion. Building a strong brand. Building a strong brand. Let me start by saying this. Everyone is a brand. The question is, how strong is your brand? A brand is like a magnet. It has the power to attract. How strong is your magnet? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I need a yes or a no. Do you recognize the name David Rudisha? Yes. With what? Specifically? 800 meters. Correct? James Mwangi? Equity. Fantastic. Can you try a few more? Yes. Nameless? Music. Fantastic. No guesswork here. Churchill? Comedy. Wow. Fantastic. Professor Gogi Wadhiongo? Author of what? Literature. All right. Let's try two more. Ahmed Law. Fantastic. My last one. James Orengo. Politics. Fantastic. Now let's put your name. Wow. Let's put your name. And ask the people. And ask the people. Let me ask you this. Who knows you? If I pick 10 people at Tradom at Kenyatta Avenue, what is the likelihood they have ever heard your name? That's the conversation here about the strength of a brand. You see, last night we were in a conversation. The person who is organizing our UK mission called Mercy. And they talked for almost an hour. And what caught my attention, because Mercy had put on loudspeaker, she was saying, look, you do not even know when we met Daktari. We were surprised by that. By the way, we were shocked. It's people you know. And they were talking of 5 years back. And they were wondering how it would go there. But then they added something interesting. Here in our audience, over 3/4 of them know Daktari. And that touched me. So they are already waiting for someone they are aware about. Because generally speaking, people don't wait for someone they don't know. So I ask you, when shall you stand out of the crowd? Shall you forever be part of the crowd? Every meeting, Ben Hinn's meeting, you are the audience. Uhuru's meeting, you are the audience. Seriously. There's a singer somewhere coming, you're always the audience, paying the tickets. When are we going to pay the ticket for your performance? For your products? That's the conversation I'm having right here. What is the strength of your brand? Now, to build a strong brand, I'm going to tell you 4 things. Number 1, identify your brand. I'll give you in a logical sequence. The very first step, identify your brand. How many in this live audience, don't lift up your head, are guilty of meeting someone, maybe you are together in college, and they ask you a question, do you steal? Bado unafanyanga. But if you ever hear people saying that, they are doubting your broad credibility. They are saying they can't predict what you're doing at any given moment. Guess what? I'm gonna ask you 4 questions. I want you to listen. I'm going to say them twice. But at that time, I would like you to answer me. These are the 4 questions I'm gonna ask you. Question number 1. No, don't write for now. Don't write for now. Just listen first. Listen first. Because you're gonna put it in your spirit. Question number 1. What do you do? Question number 2. Who do you do it for? Question number 3. What do they want? Question number 4. And the last one. How will it help them? Let me repeat myself. Listen keenly. Are you with me? What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do they want? How will it help them? Now, we are going to answer those questions. Ignore everyone else in the hall. Assume it's only you and me. We are taking coffee, the 2 of us. And I want you to talk to me. I want you to talk to me in a way I can hear. God has not given me discernment spirit to detect what is in your heart. Open your mouth. Let me know what you're saying. Speak to me. Speak to me. Is that okay? The good thing is everyone will be speaking. So don't be bothered with what the other one is saying. Don't be bothered by what anyone else is saying. In fact, as a matter of fact, let me just come and see your mouth. Are you ready? What do you do? No, I didn't hear you. This is not a good coffee date. Please. Let's talk. Let's try. Talk to me loudly. What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do they want? How will it help them? At least 30% of you answered 50% of the questions. That's your broad proposition. If you cannot answer those 4 questions at the blink of an eye, you are yet to define your broad. And when you promise people and you invite us for your product or for your service, make sure you honor the broad promise. People never come back to see whether you improved. You would rather under promise and over deliver than over promise and under deliver. Does that make sense? Yes. Hardly do people give you a second chance. I know that's too quick for you to answer those questions right now. And I've written them in our book, My Life Journey. If you can take time, answer them slowly to yourself. That's your broad proposition. If you're able to summarize it in just a sentence, like Nick Vujicic did, no hands, no legs, no worries. Like Kinyanjui did, inspiring generations. Like many other people. And I've given so many examples in the book. You check it out. But the first step towards building a strong brand, identify your brand. Step number 2, master your brand. Master your brand. I've seen too many multi-talented and gifted people fail in life. And I've seen people who are not very gifted succeed in life. And the major line between the two is that one mastered the craft and the other one was looking for quick wins, quantum reps. Because this life does not reward sprinters. Life is a marathon. You see, I've had 5 great mentors. And the leader in the pack, as you all know by now, is Zig Ziglar. And by the age of 45, he said he had 17 businesses and broke. Then it dawned on him he was going round and round, making no progress. Then in just a record 2 years, he identified one thing, put his all into this one thing. And by the end of 47, in his own admission, he had reached financial independence. He said, all along, he was a wandering generality. And hence his popular quote, you can never make it in life as a wandering generality. You must become a meaningful specific. Now, every great teacher has a philosophy. Now, if you've been listening to me for 3 months or more, there are some of my statements you can complete on my behalf. And it's a deliberate tool of training, such that at any given moment, you can say what Kinyanjui stands for. And here is one of them. Such that if you miss one of the truths I'm going to say right now, you'll have missed anything I've ever taught you. Here it is. Focus is the ability to say no. Wisdom is not just knowing what to do. Wisdom is also knowing what not to do. Selection is the name of the game. I've been teaching Wilfredo principle from Pareto Wilfredo all along, that 80% of your output come from 20% of your input. Find out the 20% that deliver the 80%. In other words, what I'm saying tonight, don't do more, focus on less. I'm not suggesting after this meeting you do much more. I'm actually suggesting focus on less. By the way, I'm going to be so daring tonight, so daring, to tell you, don't even work on your weaknesses any longer. You are already weak on your weaknesses. Begin working on your strengths, and by default, you will starve your weaknesses to death. Begin working on your strengths. If you have a child who is not doing well in maths, stop pushing them for maths. Let them concentrate in history, if they are good in history. Who told you the world just requires mathematicians? Begin working on your strengths. We've got to master something. And I will tell you, the main enemy of mastery is boredom. Repetition is the pathway towards mastery. Repetition is the mother of all learning. So before you leave this meeting tonight, I want you to identify the big five. I call them the daily five. One of my mentors, from a distance, my third mentor, he said he identified his daily five. And since these are people I look up to, I'm humble enough to tell you today, I'm a product of mentorship. I've sat at the others from a distance. And I'm doing this because I was going through a book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers. And he tries to build an argument that the reason the Beatles became the leading band in the history of mankind is because they practiced 10,000 hours. Now, there are many arguments around that principle, the 10,000 hour rule, but let's capture the spirit behind it. The spirit behind it is this: if you do something for 100 times, it's good. But if you do it for 1,000 times, it's game changing. If, however, you do it for 10,000 times, it's life changing. The principle behind it is this: repetition is the pathway towards mastery. So I was going through John Maxwell's materials, and he said, these are my daily five. Every day I read, every day I write, every day I follow thoughts, every day I do reflective thinking, every day I ask myself critical questions. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my second defining moment, my eureka moment. I just come from a school of Zig Ziglar when I enrolled for John Maxwell's. That was my dad's school. My second school was Rick Warren, because growth doesn't happen. It has to be deliberate. And from that day, anyone who has ever had me here, I've said it 1,000,001 times, I'll say it to the day, to my last breath. Every day I read, every day I write, every day I follow thoughts, every day I do reflective thinking, every day I ask myself critical questions. Before I came for this meeting, I spent no less than 6 hours doing reflective thinking. Some people tell me, hey doc, let's do some oil business. Let's prepare for what is going on in Turkana. Let's be strategic. I tell them, good idea. Every day I read, every day I write, every day I follow thoughts, every day I do reflective thinking. Every day I ask myself good questions. Hey doc, you don't know what's going on. There is so much money in ICT. We are likely to become the next Mark Zuckerberg. What a nice idea. Every day I read, every day I write. Every day I follow thoughts. I do reflective thinking. I ask myself critical questions. I found my place, and my 2 feet are deeply rooted in the air. You find your place. Go make the millions in that ICT. Because I'm pursuing purpose. I'm not pursuing the millions. And that's the difference. What are your daily 5? What are your daily 5? That's the question before us. I repeat, the footsteps towards success are the footsteps for success. If you make one single day a prototype upon which you lay down the foundation for subsequent days, a masterpiece, in 2 years' time, you'll be surprised by what you've been able to accomplish. You see, the reality in this life, every day you live, you're either preparing or repairing. If you mess today, you'll spend tomorrow repairing the mess you did today. Change is about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Wasting one day is wasting your entire life. What's mastery? If you're asked by anyone in this place, identify the big 5, the daily 5. Master your craft. The world doesn't recognize anything but the very best. Don't release it until it is world class. Be the very best in your craft, so much so that people cannot trace number 2. I'm going to ask you a question. Let's try. Anyone in our midst who knows the Vice President of China, lift up your hand. I have a gift for you. Fantastic. Question number 2, and no gift. Anyone who knows the President of China? The name? Now, I know why he knows the Vice President of Zimbabwe. But I know in this hall, if I ask that question, I'm not going to get more than 5 hands up. How many here? I'm very sure I'll not get 5 hands up. How many here know the Vice President of Zimbabwe? But everybody here knows the President of? Why? The world pays the very best. Everybody here knows who wins 800 meters. Who is that? Please give me the number 2. Yes, sir. Why? The world pays the very best. There's no room for second fiddle, second violin. You've got to master your craft. Step number 3. Focus on your craft. Focus on your craft. Learn to say no to any other good thing and laser concentrate on this one thing. As Confucius who said, he who chases 2 rabbits catches neither of them. Have you ever seen people who are so hardworking, but they hardly make ends meet? I want to suggest tonight that the number 1 reason is that they spread too thin. They engage so wide, so much that they don't have one single thing that they concentrate with. So they work very hard, but they scatter their efforts. They divide their attention. My recommendation for you today, focus on this one thing. Don't detour whatever the cost. Don't jump at any opportunity that comes your way. Put your 2 feet on this one thing, and you'll never go wrong. Step number 4, develop your brand. Develop your brand, which means every so often you ought to disrupt yourself. Don't settle on the laurels. Don't wait for the markets to shift. You shift the markets. Embark on a deliberate growth on your brand. Your brand must be predicted with precision. As much as you're growing, you're not changing the brand. Let me give an example. Java started with one shop at Adams Arcade. But I can predict the quality of Java coffee at any given moment. But they're increasing the branches, as at last year, there were 39 branches. But the quality is predictable. What I'm saying is this: you're growing, yes, but your brand is predictable. It's dependable. It has credibility. What were people looking for when they last called you? Especially if someone had not called you for 2 years or 3 years and 4 years, and they called you, what were they looking for? Almost 95% of the time there's an unknown caller on my phone. I know without a shadow of doubt for the last 10 years, they're looking for a trainer. They're looking for a speaker. And it is for that reason that over 90% of the daytime, I never stay with my phone. It's with my assistant. Why? Because I'm almost sure whoever is calling for an official engagement. When they called you, when they remembered that you exist, what made them remember you? What reminds them about you? Don't set two signals to two different audiences. We call it incongruence. It is the leading cause of stress in this life. Two faces to two different audiences. If you want to be very stressed, set two signals to two different groups of people. One corner of Nairobi, you are known to be a pastor, and the other corner, you are known to be a robber. You don't know which picture to pull when. Wengine wanajua wewe ni mwizi. Wengine wanajua wewe ni pastor. Ukifika Kayole wewe ni pastor. Ukifika Kiambu unagoga watu geta. People are confused with your brand. You see, you can put up a building in 5 or 6 or 7 years, but you can ruin it in 5 minutes. That's exactly how a reputation works. In 5 minutes, you can bring it down. My fifth point and the last one. Are you gaining something? Yes. Are you sure you're learning something?
Yes.
Reveal your brand. Reveal your brand. And I want to share 3 points to help us reveal who we are. Number 1, a strong brand attracts and repels in equal measure. A strong brand attracts and repels in equal measure. Not everyone belongs in your target audience. Don't jump heaven and earth trying to impress everyone. Even the Lord Jesus himself admitted, "My sheep knoweth my voice." In other words, not everyone belongs to my sheepfold. That means if you are a strong brand, you're going to attract some enemies. If you have never met any opposition, I regret to remind you, you're doing nothing. If you begin making progress, you will attract and repel in equal measure. But times it takes people leaving you for you to realize you didn't need them in the first place. Never be disturbed when people say you have changed. To change is human. And to mature is to change.
That's good.
To mature is to continuously develop yourself. Surround yourself with positive energy, not vampires that suck the energy out of you.